All right, we have another album that was released over the weekend, and yeah, this one was interesting. Like, it came out of nowhere for me, so it didn't really have that high expectations, but from a band that has such a brilliant back catalog, well, let's talk about it. Flowers of Evil by Ulver. So Ulver is a Norwegian post-rock, math rock, prog, progressive rock band. I think at this point I could just assume that most of the bands that I cover on here are progressive rock. I don't think I need to say that they're a progressive rock. One of the first real like math rock, post-rock outfits. The one that really caught my attention as well as many people's attention is The Shadows of the Sun, but the one that I love the most is their 2017 release of The Assassination of Julius Caesar. I feel like the sounds that they're capturing, the moods, the feelings, they're all on the one hand melodramatic and over the top, but at the same time it's very subdued, it's very personal, it's very inviting. And that was one thing that I always felt like math rock and post rock was harder to get into, is almost there's like this little barrier of emotional detachment that it's harder to penetrate. But I felt with The Assassination of Julius Caesar, as well as some of their other releases, specifically The Shadows of the Sun, they're able to penetrate that and get right to the core of your own emotions. They're not just fun soundscapes. They're not just this 80s retro synthwave stuff coming onto the forefront. It really is this emotional experience. And so I was very excited for a new release from Ulver, especially with The Assassination of Julius Caesar being one of my favorite albums from 2017. Unfortunately, I wasn't a big fan of this one. I feel like it's a little bit of a sidestep from The Assassination. I feel like they're hunkering back to that 80s synthwave, 80s dance with a more of a monotone drone kind of ushering us through within many of the soundscapes that we found within the overall presentation of music. It's not necessarily a bad album, it's just an album that I felt was extremely underwhelming. There wasn't too many moments on this album that really caught me or grabbed me, and I feel like it fell within the major trap that many of these post-rock bands fall into, where you have that barrier of emotion, you have that distance between the band and the audience that I'm not too keen of. A lot of the sounds that we have found within this are quite pleasing and very fun. It is very much that throwback of the 80s synthwave sounds. And in that sense, I enjoy those soundscapes and I enjoy the atmosphere that we have within that playing styles. But at no point do those sounds elevate to anything that's very engaging, that's very inviting into the listener. I also really enjoy some of the lyrical content. Like, I really love Russian Doll in being this tale throughout history of like this tale of this woman and her trials and tribulations. I also really enjoy the machine guns and peacock feathers of being this really big item. And maybe upon more of a reflection, this could be more of like reflecting on the past and the images that spark to mind when we're thinking about the past, and that it is a detachment of the self to the memory. And maybe that's where that feeling that I'm having, and maybe this is me just trying to justify the sounds that I'm hearing. Like, this is definitely found within nostalgia as well. That feeling of thinking back to a past time and trying to revigorate yourself within that, trying to recapture something that has been lost. But I think probably my favorite track of this is Hour of the Wolf. Like many tracks on this, it does have that kind of droning aspect of it. It's not all that clear or all that well. I think it's intentional, the mixing of this, because it is very muted in that sense, and a lot of tracks follow suit within that. But it does have this drone ushering us forth, and there's no big thing that kind of lifts it up, but I still love the groove, and I love the rhythm section of this, and I love how that rhythm section is really the heart of the overall track as itself. So overall, Flowers of Evil for me was very underwhelming. I didn't feel myself getting all that attached to it, and I wonder if that's the point. I wonder if this is something to kind of listen to every once in a while and then come back to later on to get re-enveloped within the styles that we have ushering us through this particular work. But for me, it did feel a little bit on the lackluster side. I felt like it didn't really engage me as much as I was hoping to. And there's a way to have this style of droning, lackluster, more impressionistic style of music without being completely in your face, grab you by the neck and shake you kind of a style. So yeah, I'm leaning more towards this one being a skip than anything else. And that's just for me. Like, I probably won't be coming back to this album if I'm being perfectly honest. I had, the handful of listens that I needed to get my head around this album, to understand what this album was all about. But once that happened, I didn't really feel myself needed to come back to it. So that's kind of where I'm at with Flowers of Evil. But what did you guys think? What did you think about Flowers of Evil from Ulver? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, let me know by commenting down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.